Hi everyone, I'm Kima, also known as the Public Health Guru, and I wanted to make this video to kind of provide some assistance or some insight if you are attending or planning to attend or start graduate school, specifically a public health graduate program in the fall. Now, some of us may be returning students, meaning that we have been in the workforce and we're coming back. Some of us may have just graduated the spring semester or the previous summer semester. So I just wanted to give some insight on, excuse me, what tips and tidbits I have that could help you in your first semester in your graduate program, specifically public health. And it really could be used for any graduate health program. The first thing that I want to mention is orientation. Now, we all remember that orientation that we attended via our undergraduate studies, where, I don't know about you all, but at my undergraduate, at the start of my undergraduate program, it wasn't even a program. At the start of my undergraduate studies, we attended an orientation. We were all sitting in a big old auditorium where you look to your left, you look to your right. Hey, this person may or may not be with you when you graduate, that type of thing during orientation. They talked about financial aid. They talked about student resources. They talked about parking. They talked about all sorts of things. And so there are some similarities to the orientation that takes place for freshmen compared to those that are doing orientation for graduate school. Now, not every graduate program has an orientation, meaning that, excuse me, some schools will send out a list of things that need to be done, and then expect you to be there on the first day. My particular program did have an orientation, even though my program was non-traditionally online, excuse me, and it did have an orientation. Now, what you can expect during that orientation. Now, orientation generally will start the week before the actual classes are set to start. That being said, you will have an opportunity to talk with some folks from financial services. You will have an opportunity to mix, mingle, and fellowship with some fellow public health graduate students. You may have the opportunity to fellowship and meet, excuse me, and greet some potential professors or some people who are already in the actual program that you're studying in. There's so many different opportunities because they sometimes offer picnics. They sometimes offer like social events where they're giving away things, i.e. food. I know that was my favorite thing to go for, was free food, because I don't know about you all, but throughout the course of my undergraduate and graduate school program, I was broke. So anytime they were having or offering something where there was free food, I was there. And so there may be an opportunity for food trucks, but the whole point is to mix and mingle with your fellow students, whether they be returning students or new students such as yourself. During the orientation process, this is also your opportunity to become familiar. If this is a new location, a university for you, this is an opportunity for you to explore and discover where your classes may be held. Excuse me. If your school has a gym or what type of recreational activities they have a discussion with the folks from career services. Understand what the grievance process may be, God forbid, if you ever need it. And even identify where student health is if that's something that you may need throughout the duration of your studies. The other thing that you may become familiar with, or that I think it's important, is actually have the opportunity to meet with your academic advisor. Now, throughout my undergraduate studies as well as my graduate studies, I can say that I probably met with my academic advisor about once a semester, maybe twice, give or take, once or twice. At the beginning of the semester, if I had questions about the classes that I was thinking about taking, should I take this? Am I on track to graduate? What things do I need to know? That type of thing. And at the end of the semester, because I wanted to get my pen to register for the next classes, that was me. But I had other classmates who met with their academic advisor a lot throughout the duration of their studies because they had questions pertaining to whatever, and that is whatever. I won't say whatever as it relates to the academic program that you're studying. And so with that being said, that is what your academic advisor is there for. Now for me, my academic advisor was also a professor, so her time was very valuable. And so whenever there was an opportunity for me to sit down and chat with her at the beginning of the semester or towards the end of the semester, I made sure that I had my questions jotted down. I made sure that we made great use of that time for those 30 minutes or 45 minutes or however long the appointment was. That way I could feel comfortable with doing whatever it was that I needed to do to move toward graduation. And so orientation is also a time for you to chat with them, talk about your class schedule, add maybe drop classes because you may be a working student. There may be a whole lot of things that you need to discuss during this time, and orientation is generally the time that you would use to address whatever you have going on or concerns, questions, whatever during that time. Excuse me. Orientation is also a time to make sure that you have your financial aid in order if that's something that you're utilizing throughout the duration of your studies. I know at my institutions of higher learning that parking was an ongoing issue. I wanted to make sure that I had my parking passes because God forbid those tickets did add up. And I was one of those ones who got a bunch of parking tickets after they gave me my degree, of course. But I accumulated a lot of parking tickets while I was in school. And so you would just want to make sure that you know where to park, have your parking decal, find where your designated parking areas are, that type of thing. Also, this is a time for you to pick up your student ID if that's something that you haven't already done, and just become overall familiar with the campus. And so I will say that once your classes are confirmed and you know that you're going to be in these classes for the upcoming semester, I would highly recommend you taking a look at that syllabus. That way you are able to understand and learn what your class expectations are, your course expectations are, maybe get a better understanding of what your workload may or may not be, and go to that particular professor if you have any questions pertaining to that syllabus. I know in my undergraduate studies that the first day of class was generally about us actually going over the syllabus. In graduate school, that was not always the case. Some of my professors utilized that time to go over the syllabus. Some of them didn't. They left it totally up to us to read it and then come to them if we had questions. They made it very well known that they were not here to, quote unquote, hold our hands, and that at this point we were pursuing an advanced education. So there was no need for them to take time to actually go over a syllabus when it's already written, and so it should already be understood. Now, that's not all professors, but this is definitely something that I highly recommend. That way, I know with me, I was able to determine whether or not I was going to stay in that class, possibly get out, understand my workload in comparison to what I wanted to map out for myself as far as study time, etc., whatever else that needed to be done. Some people, most people, I think that schedules are important, and this one might. I mean, these things aren't in a particular order, but I know for me that schedules are important. Although I will say, each graduate level class, it didn't really meet that long, maybe 2-3 hours a week. I put in a lot of work outside of the designated meet time, meaning that, there were readings that needed to take place before a lot of my courses. And so I would make sure that, I would have those things taken care of before I actually attended that class. And so the syllabus kind of helps guide how you move forward in that given class. And so I would recommend definitely taking a look at your syllabus and then making your schedule according to your comfortability, because in graduate school, in my opinion, it's a lot less stringent. Is that the word that I want to use? Meaning that you have a little bit more freedom to do what you need to do outside of the actual class meeting time. But the expectations, I think, are higher. I think that makes sense. Yeah, I think that makes sense. And so the next thing that I would say is make sure you have your school supplies. And I know that sounds like a really easy and like a common sense type thing. Yeah, I'm supposed to have my school supplies. Yeah, but some of us are working adults, meaning that we have transitioned into the workforce and now we're coming back to get that advanced degree. And as far as my current workplace, I don't have to buy any school supplies. I can just go to the resource room or whatever it's called, I don't know what it's called, and get a pen or a notepad or whatever. And so you definitely want to make sure that you have all of your school supplies, whether that be notebooks, pens, planners, highlighters, whiteout, whatever. You want to make sure that you have all that stuff at hand, because you don't want it to be a situation where you need it and don't have it versus you not having it and you need it. I would say the next thing to be prepared for is a lot of reading, a lot of writing, and a lot of presenting. Oh my God. I know that it was crazy in undergrad where they had us, and I know it specifically in my English classes, where we had 500-word essays and 1,000-word essays, etc., etc. In graduate school, in my opinion, I had to do a lot of reading. I definitely had to do a lot of writing where there weren't exactly like a specific word count that needed to be met, but you were expected to produce quality materials. And so with that came a lot of reading. They want to know where'd you get this information from? Why is it not cited? It should be cited. And so they would mark our papers accordingly if this information was not cited correctly. And I will say that there was a lot of presenting. Pending what you are focusing on in your graduate school program, for me it was public health. There's a lot of speaking that has to be done on a day-to-day basis, whether it be amongst the peers or the public or whoever. They want to make sure that you are prepared to face these things with confidence and be as successful as possible, because graduate school is very specific about what it's training you to do. I hope that makes sense. Yeah, what it's training you to do. And so for me, my concentration in graduate school was public health education. Community health education. And so with that being said, a lot of the work that I do or did, because now I work at a federal level, a lot of the work that I did initially coming out of graduate school was specifically dealing with the public and educating the public about public health concerns. I think initially when I first came out of grad school, it was HIV that I was out in the community teaching people about safe sex practices and this. And I feel like my graduate program actually prepared me pretty well for that, as I am still a very confident speaker with reference to the people that I may encounter or the public speaking engagements that I could possibly be asked to engage in. And so that was pretty cool. It was a lot of work, and I didn't want to do it in grad school. I'm just being 100% transparent. I hated it in grad school because I felt like that was something that I could naturally do without somebody forcing me to do it. I don't like when people try to force me to do things, but be that as it may, I feel like the actual curriculum prepared me for those moments in my public health career. The next thing that I would recommend for you to be successful in your public health graduate program, or like I said, any graduate program, is to make sure that you build a solid network. Whether that network consists of other classmates, whether that network consists of other graduate students who aren't necessarily in your program, whether that network consists of your family, whether that network consists of organizations that you're in, whether that network consists of the church, whatever that network consists of for you, just make sure that it is a solid one, because I will be the first to attest that graduate school, it can be difficult. There will be some trying times. And that first semester, when you're in classes, you may be like, well, am I supposed to be here? Is this something that I'm supposed to be doing? Honey, you wouldn't be there if it wasn't something that you were supposed to be doing. And so with that being said, when you need that woo-saw moment, you want to make sure that you have a network in place that you can lean and depend on to provide you with encouragement, to provide you with support, I know for us, with reference to my classmates, we all were each other's backbones when somebody else was down. I mean, because you're going to have those down moments and nobody's telling you not to have them. Just make sure that you don't stay there. And that is what your network is for, because the network is what, I won't say drives you, but that network is there, good, bad, ugly, whatever. And I mean, it got to be solid, in my opinion, for a successful graduate school like experience. And that's just my opinion, because without my network, I don't think I would have accomplished half as much as what I've accomplished in this day. And so I will say that my last recommendation going into graduate school, for me, it was my public health program, is to make sure that you take one day at a time. As I said previously, if you weren't supposed to be in this moment, then you wouldn't be in this moment. A lot of people suffer from imposter syndrome, and I'm one of those people who sometimes suffers from imposter syndrome. But the bottom line is, like I said, if you weren't supposed to be here, then you wouldn't be here. It's important to take things one day at a time, because there will be hard days. Because if graduate school was easy, then everybody would do it for various reasons. And so that is not the case. You are not an imposter. You are exactly who you are and who you need to be in this moment to get to where you want to go. And so always remember that you are supposed to be here. When the times get rough, don't you even let that inkling of doubt seep in to make you think that you are not supposed to be here, because you are supposed to be here. And with that mindset, you will graduate and you will go on to do whatever it is that you set out to do, whether you want to be an epidemiologist, whether you want to be a program administrator, whether you want to go work at a community-based organization, whatever it is that you want to do, you are exactly who you are and where you need to be. Graduation will happen one day. It's not going to happen tomorrow. Most of the most of the public health graduate programs take at least about 2 years to complete. And sometimes it takes folks longer for various reasons. Please don't let that deter you from doing what it is that you ultimately want to do. And that is to graduate from your program and go into a career that makes you happy. And that's just it. And so with that, I conclude my video. Hopefully you enjoy it. Leave me a comment below to let me know if I left out, or if you provided, or if you have any recommendations that you would give to a first semester graduate school student to ensure success. And with that being said, I'm Kima, the public health guru, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye.